How's that again? Presents. The truth about Bigfoot. Expert consensus is that allegations of the existence of Bigfoot are not credible science. Belief in the existence of such a large, ape-like creature is more often attributed to hoaxes, confusion, or delusion rather than to sightings of a genuine creature. In the 1996 USA Today article, Washington State zoologist John Crane said, "There is no such thing as Bigfoot. No data other than material that's clearly been fabricated has ever been presented." As with other similar beings, climate and food supply issues would make such a creature's survival in reported habitats unlikely. Bigfoot is alleged to live in regions unusual for a large, non-human primate, i.e., temperate latitudes in the northern hemisphere. All recognized non-human apes are found in the tropics of Africa and Asia. Great apes have not been found in the fossil record in the Americas, and no Bigfoot remains are known to have been found. Philip Stevens, a cultural anthropologist at the University at Buffalo, summarized the scientific consensus as follows. It defies all logic that there is a population of these things sufficient to keep them going. What it takes to maintain any species, especially a long-lived species, is you got to have a breeding population. That requires a substantial number, spread out over a fairly wide area where they can find sufficient food and shelter to keep hidden from all the investigators. In the 1970s, when Bigfoot experts were frequently given high-profile media coverage, McLeod writes that the scientific community generally avoided lending credence to such fringe theories by refusing even to debate them. Primatologist Jane Goodall was asked for her personal opinion of Bigfoot in the 2002 interview on National Public Radio's Science Friday. She joked, "Well, now you will be amazed when I tell you that I'm sure that they exist." She later added, chuckling, "Well, I'm a romantic, so I always wanted them to exist. And finally, why isn't there a body? I can't answer that, and maybe they don't exist, but I want them to." In 2012, when asked again by the Huffington Post, Goodall said, "I'm fascinated and would actually love them to exist," adding, "Of course, it's strange that there has never been a single authentic hide or hair of a Bigfoot, but I've read all the accounts." Paleontologist and author Darnosh states in a 2016 article for Scientific American that if Bigfoot existed, an abundance of evidence would also exist that cannot be found anywhere today, making the existence of such a creature exceedingly unlikely. Nosh summarizes the evidence for Bigfoot that would exist if the creature itself existed. If Bigfoot existed, so would consistent reports of uniform vocalization throughout North America as can be identified for any existing large animal in the region, rather than the scattered and widely very Bigfoot sounds haphazardly reported. If Bigfoot existed, so would many tracks that would be easy for experts to find, just as they easily find tracks for other rare megafauna in North America, rather than a complete lack of such tracks alongside tracks that experts agree are fraudulent. Finally, if Bigfoot existed, an abundance of Bigfoot DNA would already have been found, again as it has been found for similar animals, instead of the current state of affairs, where there is no confirmed DNA for such a creature whatsoever. A request to register the species name Homo sapiens cognatus was made by veterinarian Melville S. Ketchum, lead of the Sasquatch Genome Project, following publication of novel North American hominins, next generation sequencing of 3 whole genomes and associated studies. Ketchum, M.S., et al. In the De Novo Journal of Science, 13th February 2013. The article examined 111 samples of blood, tissue, hair, and other specimens characterized and hypothesized to have been obtained from elusive hominins in North America, commonly referred to as Sasquatch. The title De Novo Journal of Science, in which the paper was published, was later found to be a website registered only 9 days before the paper was announced, whose first and only journal issue contained nothing but the Sasquatch article described above. In 2013, Zoobank, the non-governmental organization that is generally accepted by zoologists to assign species names, approved the registration request for the subspecies name Homo sapiens cognatus to be used for the reputed hominid more familiarly known as Bigfoot or Sasquatch. Cognatus is a Latin term meaning related by blood. According to a statement by an ICZN associate scientist, Zoobank and the ICZN do not review evidence for the legitimacy of organisms to which names are applied. That is outside our mandate, and is really the job of the relevant taxonomic/biological community, in this case primatologists, to do that. When H.S. cognatus was first registered, needless to say we received a lot of inquiry about it. We scrutinized the original description and registration of this name as best as we could, and as far as we can determine, all the requirements were fulfilled for establishing the new name. Thus, at the moment, we have no grounds to reject the scientific name. This says nothing about the legitimacy of the taxon concept, it's just about whether the name was established according to the rules. Opinions of primatologists are generally against the existence of the purported species, as described above. Ivan T. Sanderson and Bernard Heuvelmans, founders of the subculture and pseudoscience of cryptozoology, have spent parts of their career searching for Bigfoot. Later scientists who researched the topic included Jason Jarvis, Carlton S. Kuhn, George Allen Agagino, and William Charles Osman Hill, though they later stopped their research due to lack of evidence for the alleged creature. John Napier asserts that the scientific community's attitude towards Bigfoot stemmed primarily from insufficient evidence. Other scientists who have shown varying degrees of interest in the creature are Grover Krantz, Jeffrey Meldrum, John Binder Nagel, David J. Deegling, George Scholler, Russell Mittermeier, Dennis Swindler, Esteban Sarmiento, and Myra Mayer. One study was conducted by John Napier and published in his book Bigfoot: The Yeti and Sasquatch in Myth and Reality in 1973. Napier wrote that if a conclusion is to be reached based on scant extant hard evidence, science must declare Bigfoot does not exist. However, he found it difficult to entirely reject thousands of alleged tracks, scattered over 125,000 square miles, 325,000 square kilometers, or to dismiss all the many hundreds of eyewitness accounts. Napier concluded, I am convinced that Sasquatch exists, but whether it is all it is cracked up to be is another matter altogether. There must be something in Northwest America that needs explaining, and that something leaves man-like footprints. In 1974, the National Wildlife Federation funded a field study seeking Bigfoot evidence. No formal Federation members were involved and the study made no notable discoveries. Also in 1974, the now defunct North American Wildlife Research Team constructed a Bigfoot trap in the Rogue River, Siskiyou National Forest in Jackson County, Oregon. It was baited with animal carcasses and captured multiple bears, but no Bigfoot. Upkeep of the trap ended in the early 1980s, but in 2006 a United States Forest Service repaired the trap, which today is a tourist destination along the Collins Mountain hiking trail. A study published in the Journal of Biogeography in 2009 by J.D. Lozier et al. Used ecological niche modeling on reported sightings of Bigfoot, using their locations to infer preferred ecological parameters. They found a very close match with the ecological parameters of the American black bear Ursus americanus. They also note that an upright bear looks much like a Bigfoot's purported appearance and consider it highly improbable that two species should have very similar ecological preferences, concluding that Bigfoot sightings are likely misidentified sightings of black bears. In the first systematic genetic analysis of 30 hair samples that were suspected to be from Bigfoot-like creatures, only one was found to be primate in origin, and that was identified as human. A joint study by the University of Oxford and Lausanne's Cantonal Museum of Zoology and published in the Proceedings of the Royal Society B in 2014. The team used a previously published cleaning method to remove all surface contamination and the ribosomal mitochondrial DNA 12S fragment of the sample. The sample was sequenced and then compared to GenBank to identify the species' origin. The samples submitted were from different parts of the world, including the United States, Russia, the Himalayas, and Sumatra. Other than one sample of human origin, all but two are from common animals. Black and brown bears accounted for most of the samples. Other animals include cow, horse, dog/wolf/coyote, sheep, goat, deer, raccoon, porcupine, and tapir. The last two samples were thought to match a fossilized genetic sample of a 40,000-year-old polar bear of the Pleistocene epoch. A second test identified the hairs as being from a rare type of brown bear. In 2019, the FBI declassified an analysis it conducted on alleged Bigfoot hairs in 1976. Amateur Bigfoot researcher Peter Burns sent the FBI 15 hairs attached to a small skin fragment and asked if the Bureau could assist him in identifying it. J. Cochran, Jr., Assistant Director of the FBI's Scientific and Technical Services Division, responded in 1977 that the hairs were of deer family origin.